Hello everyone and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. And we're counting down to episode 200 with some Nongshim Shin reviews. Today's episode is a double review of some of the hottest entries in the Shin product line. We've got the version sold in America, Shin Ramyun Red, fiery spicy beef flavor. And we've got the version sold overseas, Shin Ramyun the Red. Before we begin, please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy watching these reviews. Also, please check out the official Noodle Journey website, linked in the description below. It has a complete searchable index of all my reviews, plus lots of other goodies like site-exclusive reviews and news articles. Now, I personally, along with many others on the internet, have been calling the original Shin Ramyun Shin Red for years now, but that was never its official name. It was something we kind of referred to it as colloquially. So now that these products exist, I guess we all have to stop doing that. There is officially a Shin Red right now, or in this case, the Red, and these are both super spicy versions of the original Shin Ramyun recipe. Nongshim's website says they've created a new blend of various chili peppers to give these an extra spicy kick. And hopefully that means actual chili pepper flavor and not just chemical tasting capsaicin extract. If you want to buy this one, it's popping up pretty much everywhere in the USA recently. Noodle websites, Asian markets, supermarkets, Walmart, you name it. This should be relatively easy to find depending on where you live if you're in the United States. I grabbed a 4-pack of these from Yummy Buy, along with a few other things I needed for about $8, but I've already been seeing it in stores around me for the last couple months for about the same price. And if you want to buy the Red, this is the version sold in Southeast Asia and is also exported to some other territories, so you'll have to check on eBay or other websites that import noodles from there. So there's not much else to say about either of these. They're just spicier versions of the Shin Ramyun we all know and love. So I'm going to start by reviewing the American version first. And before I look at the nutrition, this is one intimidating package. It is fire truck red, and there are flames on the front of it. So this is probably not going to be pleasant. The sodium is 1,810 milligrams for the whole package, which Nongshim says is 2 servings. And we all know that's a lie. This is a single serving for any normal appetite. So that is a decent amount of salt. Not insanely high like I've seen before, but it's a lot. So inside we've got a block of Nongshim's normal wheat noodles, and we've got 3 packets. There are 2 soup bases, which get added at different times in the preparation, and there's a bag of flakes. Now the ingredients on the back don't differentiate what's in the 2 powders, so I have to assume that packet 1 is the normal Shin broth seasoning, and packet 2 is probably the extra spiciness. But whatever the case, between these 2 you've got standard Shin ingredients like beef bone extract, soy, sugar, chili pepper, garlic, onion, and mushroom extract, and we've got the added surprise of MSG. And that's interesting because Nongshim loves to say that they don't use MSG in any of the older versions of Shin, but here it is now in Shin Red. That's fine by me. MSG makes shit good. In the flakes packet, we've got the usual trio of bok choy, mushroom, and scallion, but they also list spicy fish cake in here. So that's pretty cool and very unexpected. I guess there's chili pepper infused into the fish cake surimi when it's being made. That's the paste. So I'm very interested in knowing what's in here. Now, when you cook this, you're going to add packet number 1 and the flakes into the water with your noodles, but then you add packet number 2 at the end after it's done. So I'll be able to tell if this is pretty much the same as the normal Shin Ramyun flavor or not, since I won't be adding this till the very end. So let me go cook this and I'll be right back. All right, so a couple things before I add packet number 2 over there. That dried spicy fish cake that I was excited about, I don't see any sign of it in here. What I do see, and what I missed in the ingredients, is some pretty big chunks of soy protein. That's the stuff that looks like beef. It's not really beef. But nothing in here that resembles a fish cake. There's also carrots, apparently. Again, must have missed that on the back. All right, so the one thing I'm going to check before I add this is to confirm my suspicion that this broth is more or less original Shin Ramyun without the extra spice. So let's try that out right now. Yeah, that more or less tastes like original Shin Ramyun. Maybe a hair hotter than usual. I can't tell if that's a placebo effect or not of knowing that this is going to be a spicier iteration, but I mean, it's hot. All right, let's see what happens when we put this in. Okay, that smells like a combination of chili powder and black pepper. So, yep, this is going to be hot. And we'll just stir this up. Oh, hey, check this out. While I was stirring it, I think I found a piece of what might be the fish cake. Yep, that's what that is. Okay, so it was kind of hiding in there, and there's definitely not a lot of it, but all right, I take back what I said. Sorry, Nongshim. All right, this is pretty well stirred up right now. You may be able to notice that not only did that make the broth a little redder, but it added some extra consistency to it. Like, this did thicken up when I put that extra powder in. So that's cool. Changes the experience more than just the added spiciness. And so with all that said, it is time to get into this review. All right, hopefully I can make words well for the rest of this review because my lips are burning. Damn, that's hot. Wow. All right, let me talk about the noodles. They're the typical noodles that you find in most other Shin Ramyun packs. Great chewy texture, good bounce, pretty much the same noodles I've been eating for years now. 8 out of 10 for the noodles. The spiciness score. Look, before the second packet went in, yes, this was about the same spice level as Shin, maybe a hair hotter. I gave that a 6 out of 10 way back when this channel started. And even though my spice tolerance has grown a lot in the last few years, that still feels right if we consider 0 to be no spice and 10 to be something like Bulldog 3X. But after adding that second pack, this is really very hot. To my palate, as hot, if not hotter than some of the Bulldog flavors, and it stays on your lips and it stays on your tongue. It's a very high lingering heat. My nose is running. Yeesh. Yeah, it's really hot. If you've ever considered regular Shin to be too tolerable and you crave something spicier, this is it. Finishing this is going to test the limits of my spice comfort, I can already tell. Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for the spice. And I might actually push that up to an 8.5 out of 10, depending on how spicy it gets when I get to the bottom of the bowl. And so let's talk about the flavor. What I'm thankful for is that for me, the main flavor of Shin is not lost amongst all this heat. Shin broth is a really nice, comforting combination of beef, chili, mushroom, onion, and garlic. Like, there's a reason that Shin is so popular all over the world, right? It's the comforting, savory flavor that's in this. Although I actually think this one might be a little bit more garlicky than regular Shin, which is fine by me. But yeah, this mostly tastes like regular Shin, just hotter, much hotter. I do think the added chili packet imparts a small amount of extra flavor into the broth, but not too much, but also thankfully not a chemical flavor to me. I also know that MSG is in here, but I'm not picking up on anything inherently more umami forward than normal Shin. The whole thing is largely just coming across to me as a more peppery version of Shin Ramyun. I like that the extra spice packet is separate, so if you end up buying this and decide that this level of heat is not for you, then for the other 3 packets you'll have, you can just omit that second powder packet and you'll only be missing out on the extra tingly pepper. As far as the flakes, I think this is a little bit more generous than regular Shin. For one, these soy protein bits are way bigger. That's cool. They're good. Now that I found that spicy fish cake, I'm appreciative of that. Between the soy protein and the fish cake, that's a little bit of extra texture added to the overall experience that I can appreciate. So I love the flavor. I think the heat is at the very upper limit of what I can tolerate, but it's still a really good heat. So I'm tempted to give this a 7 out of 10 like I gave the original Shin, but the novelty of the big chunks of soy protein and the spicy fish cake actually bumps this up. So 7.5 out of 10 for an overall score for Shin Ramyun Red. Okay, and now it's time to move on to the Korean version of this, Shin Ramyun the Red, which sounds pretty ominous, right? Like, is this literally what my heart is going to do as I eat this? Because that's kind of scary. For sodium, this is not that far off from the American version, clocking it at 1790 milligrams, so just a little bit less in here. Okay, and inside, this already looks pretty familiar. We've got the noodles and 3 packets. And honestly, translating the ingredients with Google Lens was a little bit difficult. It keeps changing certain words on me every time I use the translation, so I'm not sure how accurate everything is. But what I think I ultimately got out of it is that just about everything in here is the same as what I just reviewed. A combination of beef broth, garlic, mushrooms, spices, and so on. It's possible that this configuration will taste differently since it's manufactured for a different market. That does happen, but we'll see. The one part that Lens had a really tough time with was figuring out what's in the dried packet. This does have bok choy, mushrooms, green onions, and the last ingredient is either egg yolk or silkworms. So let's hope for egg yolk. I'll go cook this and be right back. All right, and here we go fresh off the stovetop, and it does look pretty much the same as normal Shin Ramyun. I don't see anything in here that looks like egg yolk, but I also don't see silkworms, so I guess that translation was a complete botch. What I do see is more soy protein, mushrooms, green onions, the same assortment of stuff that was in the last one. The only telltale sign that this is slightly different than the American version is I think this is a little bit fattier. There's more oil on top, and that's probably due to the fact that this contains both beef and pork extract. I'm just noticing a different amount of fat on the top of the broth. So just like last time, I'm going to taste the broth first, see if this is basically regular Shin Ramyun, and then add in the final packet per the instructions. Yeah, pretty much tastes like normal Shin to me. Any subtle differences between the American and Korean recipe are really hard to distinguish. This might be ever so slightly spicier and ever so slightly more umami, but like so minute that I don't think it's going to make a difference in the score unless this packet does something way different to it. So, let's see. Yep, smells like the last one, black pepper and chili pepper. And I will just stir this up and get to the review. All right, here we go. All right, friends, this one is super easy to review because I think for all intents and purposes that this is identical to the Shin Red Fiery Spicy Beef flavor from a few minutes ago. I'm not detecting anything that I would consider to be a major difference between that one and this one. So the same scores apply. Great stuff if you're looking for a super spicy version of Shin Ramyun. Okay, so this review turned out pretty interesting. Normally, with a lot of products, there's some flavor and ingredient differences between something manufactured in the US and its equivalent product manufactured in South Korea. In this case, I think these are a wash. I think Nongshim's American manufacturing plant managed to duplicate the recipe in the red to make Shin Ramyun red, and whichever one of these varieties you can get your hands on, if you're looking for a super spicy version of Shin, then you're going to be pleased with these. I should mention that in the UK and possibly other parts of Europe, there is a Shin Super Spicy that is sold over there, which I believe is meat-free, and probably has a similar flavor profile to this, but that's pure conjecture. I've never had it. I will try to get my hands on some to see how it compares to these two. Yeah, but these both have a really great flavor with an incredible amount of heat. But what is nice is the separation of the extra spice packet from the normal seasoning packet. So if you love Shin, you buy this and you find that it's too hot for you to handle when you cook the first pack, then you can adjust the spice to your liking in the remaining packs. But I know there's a lot of you out there who will appreciate the extra spice in here, and I can even see myself buying this again to train my spice tolerance a bit more. It's a great combination of flavor and spice. It is just at the very top of what I can tolerate right now from a spice perspective, and honestly, even though the burn is still a little unpleasant for me, you know, it's all good. So let me know in the comments if you tried either one of these versions, Shin Ramyun Red or Shin the Red, and let me know how you handled the heat. I will be back in the next video with another new entry in the Shin lineup. You won't want to miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and please join me here next time on Noodle Journey.